Not many people know this, but the first 2 years of strength training I ever did wasn't with body weight and weights and stuff. It was with rubberized or banded resistance. And these days, especially with the whole COVID thing, everybody and their mom is making band resistance style weight machines and devices and stuff. So I'm getting a lot of questions now saying, what do you think about banded resistance? Well, for the 2 years that I used it, I definitely got stronger and I definitely built muscle. And that's great. These things are wonderful and they work really well. They're cheap, they're portable, and they're versatile. So what's not to like? Well, honestly, even though they are good, I'd much prefer something else for two big reasons. The first qualm I have about banded resistance is that crazy steep resistance curve you have, where when you have a slack band, you have zero resistance, and as it stretches out, you increase the resistance. Now, in some ways, this is a very good thing. In fact, a lot of the literature around banded products is like it follows your strength curve, but it doesn't really match it that much. Your strength curve isn't quite that steep. It's more shallow. That's why the smartest way to use bands is with as a supplemental form of resistance, like working with barbells for bench press, squats, or around your back for push-ups, because then most of the resistance is coming from actual weight against gravity, and the band is providing that resistance curve, but it's only a subtle curve, versus when we're using the actual band as our primary resistance, that curve is really steep. Now you can of course move around in different positions and start with it's somewhat stretched to start with some resistance, but nonetheless you can't get away from this curve when the band is supplying most of the resistance. And so while you can look at it as, but it increases resistance, I also look at it as, yeah, but you also lose a lot of the resistance and you lose it very quickly. So you're only really creating a lot of that muscle building tension for a very short period of your range of motion, and the rest is kind of slacked off a little bit. And the second thing that I just don't quite like about bands too much is a lot of people are like, but they're portable. Sort of. I call this more of a semi-portable style of equipment. Things like gymnastics rings, kettlebells fall into this category where I'll bring it to other parts of my home or outside or to a friend's house or to the park, but I'm not going to carry it too much on like really small carry-on luggage and stuff. In fact, that's what I used to do back when I was a band user, and it took up so much of my carry-on luggage that I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore, especially if you want a large number of bands for a wide range of resistance, and the bigger and the heavier resistance you have, the bigger and heavier the band is, that's going to take up more volume as well. Now, to be clear, I don't dislike bands. They work fine, and they are a perfectly fine tool, because after all, at the end of the day, the only thing you need to make your muscles stronger is progressive muscle tension. And to a large degree, the actual tools you use, even the exercises and the programs you use, is not really all that important. As long as your muscles are working progressively harder over time, then you're good to go. And you certainly can accomplish that with bands. But for my money, I would much prefer something else. And of course, that something else are suspension straps, like the NOSC trainer. You can check out the reviews up here. Highly recommend it. They're far more compact, so they're much easier to take along for travel. In fact, I carry them with me all the time in my little day pack. I just always have them on me. They are just as versatile, so you can mimic almost any other exercise you would do with bands, with straps, and some things you can mix and match, but for the most part, you can get one-to-one type of exercise equivalents. And they're also actual weight resistance. Because yes, it is body weight, but don't forget calisthenics is actual weightlifting. It's just you're the weight. So that strength curve, of course, does exist. It exists with all exercises, but it's not nearly as steep and pronounced, so you work your muscles in a much more thorough and collective way. So bands are good, but in my opinion, suspension straps are great, and that's the way I would go with it. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions. Of course, check out the NOSC Twin Trainer, the one that I highly recommend here in this video review. Thoughts and questions down below. Thank you very much for watching. Be fit and live free.